Hi everybody, this is Maya Good, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about writing honestly. I've been really thinking about it because the last short story, I just finished revising a short story that I'm sending out tomorrow. Um, and honestly, it's one of the best short stories I've written so far, and it really highlighted some of the weaknesses in my earlier writing. And it highlighted an issue I was having in the short story I'm currently working on. And I wanted to talk about it because it really was a matter of being honest in your writing. When when writing books say that you need to be honest in your writing, a lot of times they're talking about being honest to the character. So if your character has a certain personality, you want to make sure that the things that they do, the things that they say, make sense for who they are as a person, because at its core, we're writing about individuals. But there's another level of honesty, and that is a level of lack of self censorship. And it's something that's very difficult because us as people, we have been ingrained with the idea that there are certain things that are okay to say and there are certain things that aren't. And many of the great writers, they were great writers because they ripped that off and they exposed themselves and their societies and their thoughts fully without self-censoring them. This came up for me when I first decided I was going to write a story for a particular contest. And it's a journal that I've submitted to a couple times before, always been rejected, and I wanted to have my best chance to get in. And so I chose a story and then I started to write it, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And I realized it was because I had too many emotional blocks. And I ended up just leaving the house, going to a really special and unique and emotional location, and writing just purely what was in my heart. And what I came away with was a rough draft that looked more like a 15th draft in my old writing life. And as I revised it, I found that sometimes you revise something and it starts to sound flat. And I would revise it and it would sound flat. And I make copies of each step of revision so I can always go back. So I would, have to go back. And and then I was wondering, why is it feeling flat? And I realized again, it was because I wasn't being emotionally transparent in my writing. This topic was so close to my heart and so close to my soul that I had too many emotional blocks. And in order to get past that, what I figured out was as I was revising, I would start to make a change and I would feel like I want to do this, and then I would second guess myself and then do something else instead. And or I would feel like there was something I wanted to do, but I just couldn't figure out what it was. And a lot of that came from fear. And sitting down and free writing beforehand or meditating beforehand or just closing my eyes and choosing to ask myself, why am I scared of writing this? What is so scary about writing this particular thing? A lot of times then something would come up and I would realize it's because what I really want to write is this, and if I write this, my readers won't like me. If I write this, my writing group will think I'm a horrible person. If I write this, people might think I'm judged, or people might put me into a box as a certain type of writer. And then I just say screw it and write it anyway, and it would turn out so much better than the previous version that I had written in a really logical manner. And so I finished this and I started writing the next story. And the next story, at its core, you're talking about a female business owner who, it's like a Pygmalion story where she buys a sex doll that ends in tragedy. And this story has really, really pushed me as far as opening up and being honest and being transparent in my writing, because a lot of the themes that I wanted to touch on are themes of intimacy, themes of loneliness, themes of trust, and themes of dating as a well-off single Black woman in our current society. And so I'm writing the story in third person, and it's just not working. It's not going anywhere. I'm like, something's wrong. I don't know what it is. And then I realize I just have too much distance. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if I have that much distance, the reader's going to have that much distance. So maybe I'll just make it first person. I very rarely write anything in first person. I have a couple like flash memoirs that are written in first person. I think I have a flash fiction story that's written in first person. And of the 4 stories that I've self-published, the 4 short stories I've self-published, only one of them is in first person. It's just not something I normally do. And so I switched to first person, and I closed my eyes, and I took several deep breaths, and I just thought, what is it that who is this character? And I just spewed. And for the first 2 acts, it was brilliant writing. Like, this character is coarse and funny and honest and scared and all these amazing things. And then I started writing the third scene, and I was fighting. And I realized that my character was fighting. My character wasn't being honest with herself. She was uncomfortable with what was happening in the story. But on top of it, I was uncomfortable with what was happening in the story. And I started hearing self-censorship. I started thinking, well, this isn't going to be acceptable for the journal that I had really wanted to focus on for this particular story. And my writing halted. I just stopped writing that story entirely. And so today, I had sent out that first story to someone in my writing group who publishes a lot of short stories. He knows what I'm going for with this short story. He's somebody I trust, to let me know, is the 8th draft really the final draft, or is it just, wishful thinking kind of situation? And he sends me back an email, and he's like, yeah, I think this is ready. Go ahead and start copy editing it. The changes you made, I really, really like. And I'm like, yes, because the story was already strong. Like, frankly, I could have copy edited it 2 drafts ago, but this journal has so many amazing writers that write for it, and the submissions are blind. So they're going to pick this up. They're not going to see my name. They're not going to see anything at the top of the page, and they're just going to read. And there's one editor that's going to be reading all these stories, and if it doesn't capture her right away and keep her, it's done. There's not going to be, it's not one of these situations where the editor is going to give it time to evolve and see what happens. I really just want to hit it strong and have the best opportunity. And so that most likely when I get rejected, I want to have it come back and think, yeah, I'm going to send this right back out. I don't need to go over it again. I want to feel that confident in it. So when he said that, I'm looking at it. I'm like, wow, this is really, really honest. Is it as honest as it can be, though? And I start reading it, and he had mentioned that the second half was really strong. And the first half was strong, but that second half was really, really strong. And as I'm reading it, I'm realizing that I'm even more honest in the second half than I am in the first half, that it really is just that transparent. So then I go and I start writing on this new rough draft, and I realize that's what it was. In that third act, my character was feeling awkward. I was feeling awkward. I put up, a barrier between my emotions and my story because it was awkward, when really what I needed to do was dive right into those awkward emotions. Let my character feel awkward. Let her be clumsy. Let her have an experience of feeling completely out of her depth when she's a control freak. Let all of that happen in its most bare, most honest, most human way. And the minute I could do that, my writer's block was broken. I work with a bunch of authors, and one of my authors says he doesn't believe in writer's block. And some people chide him for that. But frankly, for me, when I have writer's block, it's because there's something wrong with the story, or there's something wrong with me. And it almost always is a matter of I'm not being honest to the character, or I'm putting up blocks between what my heart of heart wants to put on that page and what I will allow myself to put on the page. So I don't know if this will help you for your NaNoWriMo. I don't know if it will help you for your revision. I know that when I forget this, I will probably come back and watch my own darn video. But that's what I was thinking about tonight as I was writing and going over stuff. And I think it was important for me to remember that, that all of my best writing, every single one of my stories that I've written, the parts of my novel that really sing, like when I'm revising, there are some parts I'm like, this needs chopped, and this needs chopped, and this needs chopped. And then every once in a while, there's a part of that book that just sings, and it's almost always something I wrote at like 3 a.m. when I was high on coffee, and I didn't have any more shits to give, and whatever just came out, came out. And those were almost always my best sections. So that is my video for today. I hope everyone is having a great day. I know it's been a rough week, but we are artists and art has power, and I have every intention of using my power for good in the world. So ciao.